So, how do you create a real, genuine connection when you're learning, but you're separated by, thousands of miles and a computer screen? That's really the big question, isn't it? It's the fundamental challenge of online learning. So let's dive into this, because it's about so much more than just technology. It's about the very human need to learn together, even when we're apart. Here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at the classic idea of education and see why it just doesn't quite fit anymore. Then, we'll unpack the three essential interactions that are kind of like our modern toolkit. After that, we'll assemble them into a powerful blueprint for building a real community, and then we'll see how we can make that blueprint even better, more inclusive, and ready for the future with a little help from AI. And we'll wrap up with the next big challenge in online learning. All right, so first things first, we have to understand the core problem we're actually trying to solve as instructional designers. And it all starts with this very simple, almost romantic image of what education is supposed to look like. This classic quote, it really paints a picture, doesn't it? Education in its purest form. One teacher, one student, a direct personal connection. I mean, that's the gold standard for mentorship, for guidance. But here's the thing. Our world today looks nothing like that. That simple log, it's been replaced by a sprawling, global, digital cyberspace. We're not talking to one student, we're talking to hundreds, maybe even thousands, all scattered across the planet. So the main takeaway here is that the log model, as beautiful as it is, just doesn't scale. We need a whole new framework. And that brings us to our toolkit. You see, to rebuild that feeling of connection online, we have three fundamental types of interaction that we can very intentionally design into our courses to create a really rich learning environment. First up, we've got the classic student-teacher interaction. This is the conversation on the log. It is incredibly valuable for getting personalized feedback for motivation, but like we just said, it's expensive and it's really hard to do at scale, so it just can't be the only tool in our belt. Next, there's student-content interaction. Now, this has been around forever, really, ever since we went from just telling stories to actually writing things down. But today, it's so much more than a textbook. The digital age has caused this, explosion of possibilities for how learners can actively engage with information. And what's so cool here is how these tools directly get people ready for the modern workforce. We're talking about virtual labs, where a future technician can practice on super complex machinery, or simulations that let a new manager practice having those tough conversations, all in a totally safe, repeatable way. And finally, we get to my personal favorite, student-student interaction. This is where learners connect with and learn from each other. And this is so important because let's face it, no job exists in a vacuum, right? When we design group projects or collaborative discussions, we're not just helping people get better grades, we're building those crucial workforce skills like teamwork, communication, and creative problem solving. Okay, so we have these three really powerful types of interaction, but you can't just toss them into a course and hope for the best. You need a blueprint, a model that helps us build not just a class, but a genuine learning community. And this right here is the solution, the community of inquiry model. In my work as a designer, this is the go-to framework. It basically says that a truly deep and meaningful learning experience happens when you intentionally weave together three key presences. First is social presence. I always think of this as the heart of the community. It's all about creating a space where people feel safe enough to be themselves, to show up as real people. That's how you build the trust and rapport that are the absolute foundation for great collaboration. Then you have the head of the community, cognitive presence. This is the heavy lifting, It's the process where learners really wrestle with new ideas, they challenge each other, and they build a new understanding together. This is where the real aha moments happen. And finally, there's teaching presence, which I call the guiding hand. This is our job as designers and instructors. We're the ones who design the whole environment, we facilitate the discussions, and we gently guide those social and cognitive processes to make sure everyone reaches the finish line. When you get all three of these working together, it's just magic. Okay, so having this powerful blueprint is great, but making sure that the community we build with it is open and accessible to every single person, well, that's the next absolutely non-negotiable step. This is a question we just have to keep asking ourselves over and over. A learning community is only as strong as its ability to include everyone. So how do we design these interactions to be truly universal right from the very beginning? Well, the answer is Universal Design for Learning, or UDL.
And this isn't about tacking on accommodations at the end. It's a whole framework for building flexible, resilient learning environments that can meet a huge range of needs right from day one.
And you can see just how practical this is. Remember all those student content tools we talked about? When you look at them through a UDL lens, you see their real power for accessibility. Podcasts? They're a fantastic audio alternative to reading a wall of text. Text-based blogs and wikis? They're fully compatible with screen readers, which means a visually impaired learner can contribute their ideas on the exact same footing as everyone else. It's all about building in options so nobody gets left behind. All right, now let's look ahead. What happens when we pour a little bit of fuel on this fire? What happens when we add the incredible power of artificial intelligence into this mix? You know, what's so fascinating is that the original research that this is all based on actually predicted the rise of what it called teacher agents, basically intelligent systems designed to help learners. That vision isn't just a reality now, it's evolving at lightning speed. Today, AI is supercharging all three of our interactions. It's creating smart tutors that give that one-on-one help, but at a massive scale. It can answer common questions in discussion forums, which frees up instructors to have deeper conversations. And this is huge for workforce development. It personalizes learning pathways, making sure every single employee gets the exact skills they need right when they need them. Which brings us to our final stop, the big, unresolved tension that sits right at the heart of how we design online learning. See, on one hand, you have the completely individualized, self-paced model. It gives you total freedom, total flexibility, which is what a lot of us need. But the big risk is that it can feel incredibly lonely. Then on the other hand, you have the cohort model. It is fantastic for building that community we love, but it forces everyone onto the same rigid schedule, and you lose all that freedom. And so that leaves us with the million-dollar question for the future of both work and learning. How do we get the absolute best of both worlds? The modern workforce needs people who are self-starters, who are lifelong learners, and who are amazing collaborators. So figuring this out isn't just some academic thought experiment. It's an economic necessity. The answer is probably somewhere in AI-led communities or some new hybrid model we haven't even thought of yet. But figuring that out, well, that's the next great challenge for all of us.